So we are all completely different, made completely different. And I have learned that the importance of knowing what your strengths are is that first off, it helps you to, or at least it helped me to accept the fact that my work and what I do doesn't have to be like everybody else's because I'm different. But it also helps me understand that in hiring somebody, I want to hire somebody who has the opposite strengths, or they have some of my what are lower strengths or weaknesses, you could say. So I learned all this from our next guest as he coached me through my process. So I hope that you will open your mind to understanding your strengths. A great guest. This is Eddie Villa. Hi, Eddie. How are you?
I'm excited to be here, Lois. This is
Great.
awesome. Thank you.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do, please?
Yeah, so I'm an online marketing coach, but I focus on helping people utilize their unique strengths to grow their businesses, to be something that other people can never be. So there's no more competition. We just do our own thing. So that's generally what I do and who I am.
Well, how'd you get into this business?
Well, I didn't get into it for that. That's for sure. So I got into it. It was a time in my life where I got fired twice from two different companies, doing the same thing in two different states. Fascinating, right? So after I got fired the second time, I just felt like I wasn't quite built to work for other people
Mm.
because and the reason why I was getting fired is because I was doing things maybe too creatively, let's just say. Not illegal or anything. It just wasn't what the company wanted. So after getting fired twice, going through that rejection, I was like, I want to find something that is me. And I wasn't able to find that in anything other than at the time, which was network marketing. So my wife and I had just got introduced to a really cool product by some neighbors that we had just moved next door to in Utah. That's not weird. When you're in Utah, you end up doing network marketing one way or another. But and then that's how we got started. And I started building that business with my wife. And after a couple of years, we got to the point where our volume was about 9 million a month in volume. And we had about a couple 100,000 people underneath us. We figured out some things. But the thing that I didn't get from doing network marketing was figuring out who I am and what it is I'm supposed to do. Like that comes from me uniquely that no one else could do. Because when you do network marketing, it's very robotic. Just say the pitch, give the, invite the people and, that whole thing, which is great because it worked. But that's kind of how I got into this was network marketing. And that led me to finding something that was me, where I figured out who I was. So I'm grateful for that. But that's the story.
All right, so walk us through the process of how you help people find out who they are.
So the when I first started doing coaching, that was where I was like, because with network marketing, for example, the biggest problem you have with people is people that believe they can't do it. So because I care, I would look for ways to try to help people do it. And how I would do that is I would ask a million questions. And that's it. Like that's the only way I knew how to do it. So I would ask questions like, okay, does this bother you? Where does this work? How does this work? If I told you to do this, what would you do and how would you view it? And that was like a crazy long, month long, 2 month, 3 month process. And that got really exhausting until one day our network marketing company invited us to an event where they had the company called Gallup in to do a presentation on strengths. And when Gallup did this presentation on strengths, I became so excited about it because what it was about was helping people understand their strengths and how they're different than anyone else, which was different than me. And I'm like, okay, so this, by doing this, I can figure out a person's strengths that have nothing to do with me. So I can't put my filter on them. You know what I mean? And it was a third party thing. And I started to learn about it and how it worked. I became super obsessed. And it turned into a mission for me, a passion to help people focus on strengths that I didn't have because they're different. And that's when everything really shifted for me. So I would tell people to do things, but we would do it with their strengths instead of mine. And it just kind of opened up a whole new kind of a love for what I do. So when people would work with me to grow their businesses or whatever, they would find personal joy and even peace with who they are, releasing some things that they don't have to be anymore. Oh, and that's it. I'm done. Like I got it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Is and honestly, the building of the business thing is more of an excuse now than what I just want to do is just help people love who they are. And by the way, when you do that, we'll make some money. So that way you can keep growing financially. But the reality is I love this stuff, seeing a person for who they are or how God created them versus me looking them through my own filter. It became an obsession.
So you're working with me as we're working through building a course.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that the first time that you said to me, no one else has this layout of strengths, that was very enlightening to me. I mean, it was like it connected me with the fact that God made me very unique and that I need to embrace those parts. Because I think the one thing that really stuck out that is truly me, as you said, I'm a no fluff person.
Mm.
And that is so true. I hate I hate the nonchalant conversation of nothing, which makes me really not connect well with women because those are the conversations that women like to have, and I do not connect with that. So that was really enlightening to me as far as, yeah, I am a no fluff girl person as such.
Yeah.
And so can you run through like the kind of concepts or the kind of strengths and not strengths that people might find in their
And
platform?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So um, to simplify, because let's talk about this for a second. We're talking about infinite uniqueness, right? Like this is crazy. Like Lois, let's stop and think about this for a second. There have since the beginning of time, and they actually measure this. It was crazy. But as of today, there's been about 110 billion people ever born, ever 110 billion. And when you take the strengths assessment, the chances of anybody having the same strengths assessment, because you have 34 of them, the chances of someone having the same one in the same order, and the order absolutely matters, from 1 through 34, um, the chances of another person having that is more than there have ever or will ever be people. That means that anytime I work with somebody and I see a strengths assessment, I'm looking at something I have never seen nor ever will see again. Like, that's awesome, first off, right?
It is very much, yeah.
Oh, every single time I go, oh, well, typically I see this, but you don't got that. I hear that. I say that a lot because it's reality.
Mhm.
Typically, when people have it here, this is usually where it goes, but for you, it's not that. I want to know. And that makes me excited. So to give some of your viewers some examples, let's talk about you, for example. You're very structured, very organized, very routined. And you think about this, God's like, yes, we need people like Lois on the planet, or else nothing's getting done, right? And so that means for you, it's important that things are done on time and people do what they say they're going to do. And that's very important. It's not that other things aren't important, it's just that one's very important. So when we have a person similar to you, maybe not exactly like you, who's very intense in the structure and the organization, what they tend to have as an opposite is flexibility in emotions, like dealing with people's like constantly changing emotions, where they want to do one thing one moment and they're like, I'm going to do this. And then like an hour later, they completely change their mind and want to do something else. Very difficult for you personally to deal with because that's not who you are.
Mm.
So then it's very easy to go one of two ways. Either believe that who you are isn't going to work because there are so many lunatics out there constantly changing their mind, right? So then you start to think maybe there's something wrong with you, that maybe you need to be a little bit more flexible emotionally, Lois. Then the other one is what I try to teach people is go, no, you can literally say right here, Lois, like you can say, I don't have to be emotionally flexible for everybody. I don't have to. Instead, I get to be structured for those who are emotionally unstable. So they have something to lean on. Huge right there. Like,
Yeah.
pay attention, everybody. Like, this is what's wonderful about you is what other people need. That's why I love infinite uniqueness so much. Because if who I am is different than anybody that's ever been, that means everybody needs it. So if I stop being it, I deny that to everybody and myself. Come on. What the heck? Why would we do that? Right. And the only reason we do that is because somebody has convinced us, or we have allowed Satan to convince us that we should stop. And that is definitely something I've learned in what I do. Satan is definitely involved in wanting to get in there and stop it, because I feel it sometimes where he'll come to me and be like, you might be this, but you're not this. And if you're not this, then you're not going to get the thing you want. Like, I'll sometimes hear that. And I know that's not God,
Mhm.
right? So that's a great example. To the flip side is you'll have someone like me who's very energetic, very emotional, waves hands around when I talk, right? Puts on a show, if you will. But then for me, and you know, because we've been working together, sometimes not super structured. Sometimes things aren't organized as proper as they could be, right? There's a different energy that I deliver.
Mhm.
And so I think you've probably experienced this, that like, that's not what I want from Eddie. I want that other thing. I want that. And that's what I would tell you, and I would tell anybody. Don't always expect that I will always be organized and always structured, or even sometimes I might even be a minute or two late, but I will deliver on a very high level on what I do, who I am, and how I deliver that. And that's where I would love for everybody in the audience to pay attention to, is focusing on developing that instead of spending too much time developing something you're not. Because then at best we'll become mediocre at best. And I'm sorry, I know this, Lois. You and I are both on the same page about this. God didn't design us to be mediocre.
Mhm.
He designed us to be an example of his glory. And so the more we lean on what's already great about us, and then we rely on others for the things that we're not, then we go, thank you, God. I see your plan. I see how this works, and I see my place, and I love it. Let's just keep doing that. You know what I mean? So those are a couple of great examples. There's many others, but I think your audience will probably resonate with a couple of those. There's some other ones where you got like your husband, a big book reader, right? The
Yeah.
strategic thinker. Or you've got those that are just very peaceful, calm, present, relationship builder style. Those are out there as well.
Yeah, so first off, it helps me understand my process of putting the course together, but
Mm.
I can also see where it can help us understand like our spouses, our children, and just not trying to get them to be what you want them to be because that's who you are, but understanding who they are so that you can appreciate their strengths.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so grateful that I have a belief in God. I don't understand anybody that wouldn't put this in there. But if we look at our children as true gifts from God, then our desire as parents, for example, should be to want to understand that. Like, not saying just let them do whatever they want. We do have to teach. That's the point. But who do they want to be? Do they want to be more of an influencer, or do they want to be more of a connector? Do they want to be more organized and structured like you, or do they want to be more of a thinker and an analyzer, visualizer, strategizer of some sort? And then we help them see that that's wonderful. Now let's develop that,
Hmm.
right? So, like my son, who I know is a very strong thinker because he asks a million questions. So anybody who's ever had a child who asks like every question and questions the question, even, why is the sky blue, and why does it have to be that shade of blue? That kind of like level of questions he can go through. So to me, that helps me understand that his major energy and focus is between his ears, right in here. And he puts a lot of emphasis on it. Although my wife and I sometimes struggle with his millions of questions, I always default back, well, what's good about the fact that he asks so many questions? How can this benefit the world when he gets older? How can I help him develop it to do more than just think things through? Share his observations. Like, I could see this kid being a teacher and a writer of books or courses or trainings, an educator or a coach. and a philosopher, whatever. There's no limit once we establish that. So for me, to end this, my goal is to help him love that side of him.
Mm.
That's my goal. Help him love it. I can't force it, but I can help him. I can help him love it. And like how many books did you read today, son? And what'd you get from the book? And he loves to read, obviously. So I show him I love that he loves that. You know,
Yeah.
I've had him read my books. And I want to know what you think. What do you get from this? And that's kind of where it is with our children. Because when I was a child, I'm like this, very loud and very much in everybody's business. And I got rejected often, made fun of. I had cousins that would tease me and try to do things that would harm me physically sometimes
Yeah.
because they didn't accept it. They didn't like it because it was different than them. Go figure. That's how it works.
Mm.
And so I'm sad that, in some way, I'm sad that it was never embraced for me. I had to wait until my late 40s to figure this out. And now I'm in my 50th year. I'm like, man, how different would my life have been if I'd figured this out in my 30s, 20s? How about when I was a teenager, when everything was really confusing? Powerful stuff. And see, we haven't even talked about business building earlier. This is where it gets really cool, right?
So, all right. So, how does this work into building businesses?
Well, so right now I'm hot on this topic because I'm doing a training pretty recently, but soon. But the main concept is, if we're building a business, then we've got two things. We can either be comparable to others, in which case we're fighting a pricing game, right? Like if I'm going to create, let's say, microphones, then my game is, okay, how can I get the best quality microphone for the least price? And that's the game you're playing when you're doing something that other people do. And that's how it works. As soon as someone discovers something new, everybody jumps in there and tries to copy it.
Yeah.
Right? There you go. But the person who got there first is the one who benefits the most. So that's one way you can do business. The other way is to just come out with something that nobody could ever come out with, talk about something no one ever could talk about, or even duplicate. Because once you figure that out, you're ahead of everyone, because then you have success with it. Then everybody rushes to try to do that, but you're the best at it already. So you have, no matter what, you have blown everybody away, and there's no way anybody could catch you, which means that you'll profit better by being the most expensive. So for me, I'm like, this is why business is such a great transition, is because if I'm infinitely unique, then I'm going to create a product that's also infinitely unique that nobody could ever duplicate. So now I'm in an ocean on my own. Like if you've ever read the book, The Blue Ocean Strategy.
Yeah.
So I'm always in a blue ocean because I am the blue ocean, just like you. You're the blue ocean. Even though you do things that are similar to other people, you're going to do it differently in a way that nobody could ever get from anyone else, just you. This will create more loyalty, more customer retention. And it's not about you, of course, it's glory to God, but they equate their success to you. And that's what we want, not necessarily like we don't want the credit. We want other people to do that too. We want to be the example. I figured out who I am. I did what I'm supposed to do. Now it's your turn. You can, and like network marketing, I started out duplicating what everybody else is, because that's what network marketing is, duplication, right? And selling the same thing everybody else was selling. But I had to figure out how to do it my way, the way God designed me. So that's to me how for business, this is how business works. I want to be an ocean of my own. Like, I love the idea that I can go in front of your audience and sell my thing and it benefits you. It never takes away from you, because you can't do what I do. And I know you don't want to. That's even better. I go, great, cool. Well, let me do it for your people. And then I'll bring my people to you, and you're going to do the same thing for my people, because I can't do what you do. I don't want to do what you do. That's not at all my game. So for me, I'm always that everywhere I go. And that's what I want everybody here watching, like you can be anything. You can be an affiliate. You can partner up with other companies. You can bring what you do to all kinds of different places when you're finding how to do it your way based on who you are. So business and uniqueness, right?
So can you give me some examples of like how would one connect their strengths into a business? Like how does that change the way they do business from the guy next door?
Okay, so I call this joy and results, right? So there's things that are required to be successful in anything. You can't get away from them. They have to be done. Like if you're going to bake a cake, you have to use flour, right? I'll use that. My friend Laura Jacobs taught me this. I love her. So she's explaining that there are certain laws you can't, break or violate in order to be successful. But you can execute those laws in any way you want. So the reason why I love the cake analogy is that you have to use flour to bake a cake. But you and I both know there's a lot of different types of flour.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be wheat flour. It could be oat flour or just any
Yeah.
flour. Yeah.
10 years ago, there was just flour.
Yeah.
And if we're crazy to believe that what are there, like maybe 20 different types of flour now, that's
Yeah.
not going to end. There's going to be 50, 100. Everyone's going to find a way to do almond flour or whatever. I don't There probably is almond flour. I
Yeah,
don't even
there
know
is almond flour. Yeah.
that, right? Like people are like, what's almond milk? Like if you go 20 years in the past
I
and go
know.
almond,
Whoever thought of milking an almond.
there you go. And so that's the point, is like somebody infinitely uniquely brought that to the table based on who they are. And so that's the same as niching down. We all hear this all the time: niche down, niche down. Okay, that's because that's what, well, there's no niche down further than me. So all I got to do is work my way up until I find that right niche. So, for example, I don't help people bake cake with flour. I help people bake cakes with infinitely unique flour that only they could come up with. And now they have a cake that they can sell online that no one in the planet could ever sell, just them, right? And like that's so when we look at how, we start with where it is you're strongest. So for you, you would bake a very organized cake, right? A very structured and organized cake. Then you would bring someone in to add the flavor or the spice, because they're the spice strength people, right? So then you go, oh, and this is what's great about you, is that you hire coaches and you hire mentors and you look at people that are different than you. That's how you do this. It's perfect what you did, because you're this thing. Now your cake needs this thing, and you bring someone else to help you bring it in, right? That I'm hoping I'm giving some great examples of how.
Oh yeah.
Um, if I was a relationship builder type who doesn't like to push people or challenge people, just love them where they are. Let's take off our shoes. Let's walk on the grass and let's ground and sing kumbaya. These are people that are not like you or I. But that means that if they were to bake a cake, that would be a very community-based cake, right? It would be a cake that would be one that everybody would call it crowdfunding, right? Crowdfunding cake. That when everybody buys this cake, everybody gets a piece of that cake money. You know what I mean? So maybe for them, that's what the kind of cake they would make. So it's always focused on what is what do you care about? What are your core values? And they're different. Like, even though you're very structured and organized, you have some very different beliefs about the world, and you see things differently compared to other organized people. You've seen it, right? And so what is that? This is one of the reasons why I love the assessment that I use with Gallup, is it gives us words to articulate uniqueness. And I can go, well, your cake might sound like my cake, but mine is different, and here's how. So I'm without being too specific, that's how you would do it. You start with how you do things, and then you bring others who are different than you. Imagine that. People that are different. Weird.
Which we all are. So.
Yeah,
Tell us
I
about
think we spend too much time with that, trying to find people that are like us to build with us when we should be finding people that are different than us.
Yeah, because so there's in building a business, especially that you could be looking for specific, like you said, other strengths
Mhm.
to make your business more profitable. I mean, you would want to find somebody maybe who's had some type of strength in more of a sales position or salesperson or whatever strengths make that up. So
Yeah,
it's really good to like search for the people who have different strengths than you so that your business could be more successful.
to scale it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful that in our day and age, any one individual can say, "I'm going to start a business," right? And that's wonderful, and that business can take off. It really can. I have a daughter who sells antiques on Whatnot.
Okay.
So Whatnot is a really cool app where you can go on a live broadcast and sell stuff. And she sells antiques. She loves it. She just loves it. But it's just her for now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she's doing, I think, somewhere between 5 and 10 grand a month. And she has a full-time job running one of the hotels, one of the big hotel chains. She's a general manager for hotel chains. So she's doing it on her own. And I'm just looking at her and going, okay, kid, let's find some love and some consistency here. But then let's scale by finding people that are very different than you
Mm-hmm.
to come in and be a part of it and grow it because not just different because we're all different, but very different, you know. And so I would have her show me her strengths and go, okay, these top strengths, these are you. These bottom strengths, we need to find someone that has these bottom strengths high,
Mm-hmm.
that wants to be a part of what you do, you know. And that's the second level. And for me right now, I've been in that place where I had a group of people and a team. And so I also know what it's like to just be by myself and run things. And I'm starting to really understand how easier things can be when we know who we are, and then we'll know what we need. Because it's just really different than you. That's what's cool. That's simpler. You know, no ego, no ego.
Well, tell us about your books.
Okay, so the first book I wrote was based on my workshop. So when I started teaching about strengths, by the way, for all the people that are watching, if you've ever learned strengths from anybody, you haven't learned strengths from the way I teach it, because the way I do it is different than anybody that's ever been, right? I'm unique. So when I started teaching about strengths, I had to write what I was doing or noticing about it. And I thought I was writing a book that I had to partner with Gallup on. So I wrote the book based on the workshop and I sent it to Gallup and I said, what do I have to do to license this? And they went through my book and they said, Eddie, there is little to no IP of ours in your book. You don't have to license this at all through us. They actually sent me an email that said, with what's in your book, you are free to produce this on your own. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So that's this book here. It's called Unleash Your Strengths. And right now I'm changing websites. So I don't have a website specifically where you can get it right now, but I'll give you a link, Lois,
Okay.
so you can
We'll
get
have
it.
the link below so that you can.
Yeah, I'll give you a link and you can find it. But you can get it on Amazon too. There's always that, right? Anyway, so Unleash Your Strengths. This book is a specific guide to help you take the assessment and actually get results with it really fast. And this is not what Gallup teaches. Gallup teaches their own thing. I teach something else. And it's not that it's contradictory. It's just my way and their way, right? So this is the first book I wrote so that people who have their strengths can confidently apply them and release things that they don't have to be. But I found something weird in that process. This book assumes people believe their strengths are helpful. I didn't realize that there were people that like didn't believe that their strengths were helpful. They actually believed that there was something wrong with them because maybe the people around them didn't accept it, like family, you know, family can be. Um, and so they bailed on the idea that they had strengths and they learned to push them down. And I didn't know that I had to write a book about that until I hired a book coach, and he was the one that suggested I write a book about my story, and that's this book. So this one's called Unleashed, and this is actually really interesting. So if you can see, oh, sorry, hold on, let's take away this silly video background thing. Let's actually look at this. So this here, as you can see, this is called Unleashed. It's a little blurry, I know, but it says "Fire twice, freedom forever," and you can kind of see the little visual here.
Yeah. Everybody looks really sad and there's one person flaying up.
Yeah, I know it's a little blurry, but the reason why I wrote this book was because I wanted to tell my story, but I realized that my story is about discovering that you have infinite unique strengths and that they are good and helpful and can make a difference in people's lives. So I had to write this book. So this book I wrote second is sort of like the prequel, if you will. I have strengths and they are good. How do I use them? Right. And then my next book will be how do I help others do this?
Hmm.
How do I help others unleash their strengths? That's the next one. That's a little further down the road. But that those are those books, and I'll get you links to get both of those. They're very easy reads. I don't write hard to read books. I write books that I want people to finish. So
Without having the dictionary next to him, huh?
yeah, yeah. And so although I love it when people say, "Hey, I loved your book," the greatest compliment person can give me is I read it all. Like if there's like you could say I read it all and it sucked, and I'd still be like, "You read it all? Hey, that's awesome. That's okay that you hated it, but you read it all. Thank you. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to create something, Lois, and people actually do it.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best feeling ever. And so that's why I love helping people write courses or create content because it's a wonderful feeling. So there you go. Those are the history on those are the stories on those two books.
There you go. So if you are one who is thinking of writing a book, you have a business that you would like to have to learn more how you can make that business more of a strength, you need to talk to Eddie. So I'll have
Absolutely.
all of his contact information below. Hey, Giants, I hope that you're enjoying this episode and that you'll stick around and watch this episode, whichever side it's on. So, any closing thoughts?
Uh, my closing thought is always whether you know it or not, the world needs you.
Oh, that's nice.
Whether you know it or not, the world needs you. And I know that there's often times where it's easy to get wrapped up in believing that they don't, and it makes you want to shut down and hide and shrink. Um, but I know that's not God. I know God doesn't want that. I know He loves you because He created you infinitely uniquely, and He's asking you to share that with the world. We don't know how much time we have, so today is the best day to start if you haven't already. And then get really good at helping other people do the same. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, that's great. Great way to end. Well, thank you, Eddie. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom and sharing about our strengths.
My pleasure.